So Cardi B, the hate on Cardi B. So Cardi B, rapper, media personality. She's been on reality TV. She was a former stripper. And yeah, she's, seems like a lovely gal. I like her. I've largely moved away from lyric-driven music of all genres. But when I do hear Cardi stuff, it's like, I love it. It's energetic. It's bold. I love the charisma. I love, and I just love hearing, a woman like her, talk her shit. Because for a lot of people, somebody like a Cardi B is very new and it's very intimidating and it's very like intrusive, right? As a matter of fact, what was her first album called? Invasion of Privacy. Like the privacy of your mind, because she is just like, she's putting herself in your mind and she's living there rent free, so good on Cardi B. But in any case, the point I'm trying to get to is, so she has a great story, right? And, she's had to come up and saying hard in a tough environment, a tough situation, being a Puerto Rican gal, in the Bronx, involved in the underworld and dealing with all kinds of, bullshit in the respective spaces that she had to navigate through, right? And so what I'm seeing is that, a lot of hate aimed towards her that goes beyond just disliking her music or disliking her persona. Which, of course, you don't have to like anybody's art. You can be critical of anybody for any reason that you want. And you don't have to, like Cardi B and pretend that she's somebody that you want to hang out with, if that's not it. But the thing is, people who are that reasonable and level-headed and can think those things, they don't say anything at all. Because like I said, like the thing is, I know plenty of Cardi B's or women like that. Women who are, on one hand, their level of femininity is so strong that it is intimidating to a lot of women and men. And then she also has a side of her which can be considered very masculine and very, aggressive, and is also intimidating the men and women. So it's like she's really intimidating to certain groups of men and women for different reasons. But this also provokes a certain special insecurity and I think a sense of guilt in men. On one part, you have, I think, let me just get to the reason. So there was a story that came out this past year, right? That Cardi B, not came out, but that she acknowledged that she used to drug niggas who would come to a club or whatever, and she'd go home or whatever, probably say that she's gonna sleep with them, whatever, and then drug them and then rob them, and it's like, yeah, that's fucked up, and taking advantage of those niggas and shit. It's like if they agreed and they thought they was gonna go and smash or whatever, and in exchange for whatever, or just because you thought you liked them, yeah, that's fucked up. But I mean, the thing is, you have to have the understanding of the greater context and shit. It's like, this is a woman whom, is dealing with a certain part of the sex work industry, because stripping is a kind of sex work, and the thing is, being a stripper doesn't mean you have to sleep with anybody that you don't want to. You're not, saying just because a woman's out there showing you, saying everything doesn't mean that you're entitled to it, fellas. So the thing is that she's, having to navigate a very predatory, space that's controlled by men, and where men are known to use a lot of violence and manipulation and intimidation to enforce themselves, right? To control women, right? And so, so yeah, while Cardi's actions, aren't commendable, it's like, she was doing what it was surviving. She was surviving and trying to do the least amount of damage, that she could. It's like, yeah, you get drugged, nigga. You thought you was gonna get some pussy or whatever, and then like I took your money or whatever. So yeah, it sucks. That's a financial setback and shit. But it's like, in that vulnerable state, anything can happen to you. You know what I'm saying? So if all you did was get robbed, it's like you should be grateful for that. But the other thing is that I still see motherfuckers, that there are people, there's a certain type of men and these hoteps, and mind you, hotep is just the black name for this phenomenon, but it's actually just a male thing in general. And there's different, you can call it whatever you want in every subculture, in every culture where men act this way. But there's a lot of men whom are aiming their hate at Cardi B at first, just because because she's, low class, or because she used to be a stripper, or because deep down they find her intimidating and probably also attractive, but they don't know how to reconcile those feelings. Right? And comparing her drugging and robbing niggas to Bill Cosby's drugging and raping women. Now, if you're a reasonable, sensible, level-headed person, you can see why that's gross and disgusting. You're comparing the involuntary... because in both cases, people are being drugged, against their will. Okay, yeah. And in one case, one is just losing, their money, which is it's a setback and shit. But it doesn't always, ruin your life or mean you're going to be living with trauma and shit. And then you have another person, another case of somebody physically violating you against your will. It's like, how dare you compare the two and then act as if you have the moral high ground because, like, well, they both drugged people and did something without their consent, so it's exactly the same. It's like, no, this is displaying an obvious, this is hypocrisy, and it's once again, to me, it feels like a projection of male guilt or male ignorance, because either you are so stupid and so callous and separated from the experiences of people, of men and women, and what they go through, what women have to go through versus what men have to go through, or just feminine identifying people in general, femmes, versus men or just those who display more masculine traits. And you're just fully ignorant of that, and you're not even, you're not even thinking about bringing that context into your decision making. But to me, it feels like a lot of people actually just motherfuckers are just being dishonest because they probably see that either they don't believe Bill Cosby either did it, or because they don't really give a fuck. They really do equate the loss of financial resources to being physically violated, and equating the two. So the thing is, I really have to wonder, it's like, so then do you think the only recourse for a woman being raped then is for the perpetrator to just pay a fine? Is that all you think it is? Because you're equating the violation of their physical body, their physical autonomy, with being robbed of material resources. Like, I would rather you have to take every fucking material resource from me before you cut off even, a tip of my finger, or think about, putting a tip of your finger anywhere in around me without my fucking permission. So, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. It's hypocritical. It's displaying, your insecurities. It's also displaying either a level of ignorance and or guilt. You know what I'm saying? For holding, such malice and contempt for somebody who has had to live a completely different life, completely different set of circumstances and conditioning than you have. And to equate the behaviors that they're doing in surviving, in trying to survive. And then also, once again, so here's the real kicker. And so here's the other kicker about it. It's the goal, the context of doing these behaviors. In one context, you have a case of a woman who's in a vulnerable position doing something to survive, right? In formidable odds. And in another case, you have somebody who's already in a position of privilege, abusing their position of power to violate people as a sense of, as recreation. And before you think, if you're somebody in my circle who thinks I'm just talking about you, no, if it was just one or two people, you know what I'm saying, bringing this shit up, or talking about this and still keeping this story in the media and in memes and in my timeline and shit, I wouldn't say nothing. But the thing is that I'm seeing it all over the damn place, and it's all men. All right, and I mentioned a term. I used the term hotep. So for those that don't know, the term hotep, it's Once again, this is just the term that we use for it in the Black community, but it's really just referring to a set of beliefs and behaviors that are usually promoted by a certain type of man in the respective cultures that espouses patriarchal rule, a very strict, hierarchy, very machismo driven, or very, very much about keeping strict gender and sexual normative behaviors and roles for people. It's quasi-religious, more like in a mystical sense of just kind of making up shit off the top of their head and not really adhering to one specific particular religious doctrine or philosophy. We've all met men like this. It's these men that are just like, this is what a man does, this is what a woman does, this is what masculinity is, this is what femininity is, and this is what certain groups of people are supposed to do, and blah, 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 right? And then this is what keeps us, and then here's the other underpinning thing about it, is that it's all under the guise of this is what creates a harmonious society. As if somehow they are able to prescribe what everybody else should accept as the status quo. It's just control. It's just about being able to control the narrative of demonizing certain behaviors and demonizing certain traits, right? And the promotion or glamorizing, deifying of others. That's all it is. And so just be mindful that the Hotep, question your views. If you find yourself, trying to justify any of the behaviors, negative behaviors that I just described, and, trying to defend it as, this is what's good for society and this blah, 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 blah. It's like, I really want you to take a hard look at all of the people in your life who you support, who've done fucked up shit, who've had an effect on the people's lives. And, because you can destroy and fuck up somebody's life without drugging them or robbing them or raping them. Okay. And you know what I'm saying? And also question yourself and why it is that you find yourself jumping on this instinct to hate on somebody from a completely different set of circumstances and doing things that, which we can agree with, which were unethical, but that you want to equate all unethical acts in the same thing, or this, particular set of acts because they both involved, drugging without their will. It's like, okay. But we all live in glass houses and we've all done some shady shit. And whether or not you've learned from it, I would just hope that you're the type of person who will be consistent about them when you get caught on your own bullshit and the ways in which people testify that you've affected their lives. And, don't be surprised when people hold your feet to the fire. Because just because somebody's not always replying to your posts or bringing it up to you in person, it's like, watch, keep pushing that fucking button. Keep bringing up, keep showing that you want to die on that hill and shit. Because the nature of all relationships, if nobody's ever told you, if you haven't really had to embrace this, is what the Russians refer to as compromise, or compromising information. After a while, you deal with people, you start getting comfortable, you start, saying things around them that maybe you wouldn't say if you hadn't known them for a month or two or a year less, right? And it's like, and I value confidentiality and people holding on to things. And the other thing that I keep in mind when I interact with people is to not just be so quick to jump to conclusions and make these rash generalizations, or make these strong value judgments on every behavior and comment that I see other people making. Because I know that life is fluid and unpredictable, and that people can change and need the room to allow to become better. You got to give people options. But some of y'all are just so obsessed with the fact that certain people whom you may either think don't deserve success, well then go, then please tell me what it is that you think you are deserving of what they're deserving of, and why. And then I want to talk to you about the myth of meritocracy in this fucking country, in this system, and the myth of equality, and the myth of equal access to goods and resources that allow people to feel secure within themselves, and that they have enough waiting for them after they take a chance, and if that shit doesn't work out, than being able to go out and do something different because they have something counting. They have something that they can rely on. But when you don't have a backbone, when you don't have shit that you can rely on, it's security, any sense of security, then you're less likely to take chances, which means you're less likely to try new things and, experiment with different, ways of going about your life, one of which could take you to the next level. But you are barred from it. So the next time you see somebody that wants to just keep making these, rash value judgments about, well, if I was in this situation, I wouldn't have done this, or in this situation, blah, 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 blah. It's like telling them to go fuck themselves. And this is somebody who clearly has not really had to, deal with shit. When you feel yourself on the brink of homelessness, or you feel yourself going hungry, or when you feel yourself losing access to like your medical care, or losing, touch permanently with somebody close to you, for whatever reason, you don't know what the fuck you'll do until you're in that situation. So y'all need to get up off, if you are that person, or you know somebody who likes to get on their high horse about that shit. Honestly, I want to know what it is in your life that you had to really overcome besides a general sense of discomfort in trying new things, or just having to hear people scream, or having to hear people, make harsh decisions for you. Until you have to make harsh decisions that make you question your own morality and make you realize that it's mostly gray and with a little bit of black and white. Okay. Then it's like, then you'll learn to keep your fucking mouth shut, or to be able to put things in a better context. But all you people that are, taking your hate for Cardi B beyond just, she's just not your cup of tea. She just doesn't make the music you like. It's just not the personality that you that you find appealing. That's all fair criticism. But most of y'all who are still keeping, this shit, or talking about any other figure and about who deserves success and who deserves notoriety and shit, when all of us have problematic faves and problematic idols and are problematic to other people, depending on the situation. To get the fuck over yourselves.